Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show, where we talk growth systems and what actually works. I'm your host, Paul Guyon. Anthony Sullivan, he goes by Sully, and I'm going to use his name, Sully, if you don't mind. He spent more than 3 decades in direct response marketing. Think OxiClean and things like that. If something wasn't working, the numbers told you immediately. Then he stepped into an entirely different business where the old playbook stopped working. The market collapsed. Investors wanted to put in more money, actually, and survival came down to selling one bottle at a time. Sully, take us back to the moment you realized success in one environment wasn't automatically going to transfer to the next one.
Hey, Paul, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. You couldn't have
You
summed
bet.
that up better. Yeah, I came to America when I was 23 years old. I was right off the boat, and I remember just coming here, and I just could feel the energy around this idea that anything was possible in America, and you're referencing the American dream. And I hit the ground running, and I was selling cleaning products from home shows and state fairs, and I had this dream of getting on television. I wasn't quite sure how I was going to do it, but I was like, you know what? I think I can. Infomercials were a thing. And I thought America's the place to do it. I was in Los Angeles, and it took me a couple years. And I actually got a break on one of the shopping channels, HSN. And I first sold my smart mop. It was a cleaning mop. And I
Mhm.
was put right time, right place, right pitch, right product. And that was, I remember when I started that in 93, 94, I thought I was in the center of the universe. There was no internet, no Wi-Fi, and TV shopping was a thing. And I was this little English snotty-nosed kid, and it didn't matter what I said, people were just buying stuff. I don't want to say it was like taking candy from children, but I felt like it was. I would go on television, I would do my pitch, which was very well rehearsed. And 1995 at a time, we wouldn't be uncommon to go on the air and sell 6,000 mops in a 20-minute airing. And we do that 5, 6 times a day. And the numbers, it'd be possible to shift $1 million worth of retail over a weekend. And I don't want to say it was easy because I look back on it and only remember but it was a long road to get there. And that led to me meeting Billy Mays and led to me working with OxiClean and started the marketing machine for OxiClean back in the late 90s. And Billy and I became fast, furious friends, and we were both cut from the same cloth. He was a loud and proud pitch man, and I had that English. We both had different styles, but we both spoke the same language. And I worked behind the scenes on basically writing, directing, producing a lot of Billy Mays' work. And of course, he was very iconic. And once again, I felt as we realized we could only sell so much on the live shopping channels because there was a relatively small audience who bought a lot on the shopping channels. And Billy and I wanted to expand and reach a broader audience. So we started to make TV commercials. And that's probably when in the early 2000s is when you started seeing Billy Mays on TV. And a lot of those commercials were produced by myself. And I don't want to say we couldn't put a foot wrong. Pretty much everything Billy and I did had hit. It was like a hit factory. And it went on uninterrupted until Billy died back in 2009. And I took over as tragically died, and God rest his soul, my best friend at the
Ah,
time. And it was a very difficult time. And I eventually took over as the OxiClean guy. And the internet was still in its infancy with regard to the transactional component. Streaming wasn't a thing. Broadband obviously had happened. YouTube was just happening. Amazon was still in the book business. And between 2009 and 2018, that obviously social media hit, Instagram hit, Facebook hit. Amazon went from selling books to being the biggest online commerce platform in the world. And we started to see a really big erosion in how easy it was, if you will. The word easy is not, but we had this formula that was working, and all of a sudden it stopped working. And I saw the writing on the wall I'm like, you know what, this direct response model is going to change. We were thriving on scarcity. You got to order now. Be one of the next 500. We're going to run out. And all of a sudden, we're in this world of 24/7 abundance. You could go to a website and everything was available all the time. And I felt like I've been doing it for 25 years, and I felt like it was time for a pivot. And I was looking for a new opportunity. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, and I was always sitting down with inventors and rating products in a Shark Tank sort of way. Pre-Shark Tank, inventors would come in and show me their product. And I wound up on my journey. I had a little girl at this period of time, and she was born with a rare genetic disorder. her name's Devon, and she had a lot of complications when she was born. She almost didn't make it. She was in the NICU for a long period of time. And that took obviously a lot of my bandwidth. I was running my business and I had a new little girl and she was really struggling. And her mom is a PhD and she's a school psychologist. She's super intelligent, super bright. And I'm so happy. She's an amazing mom. When Devon was 7, she developed a seizure disorder and her eyes would roll back into her head. She would stop breathing, and it was terrifying. It was like anywhere from 30 seconds to, it seemed like an eternity. I'm like, is she going to stop breathing again? And she would come around, but because she was nonverbal, it was very difficult to know what triggered these events. And her mom suggested that we try cannabis and CBD. And my initial reaction, I remember where I was driving down the freeway. I'm like, Devon is not going to get high. I'm like, my little girl is not going to be taking anything that's going to get her high. And then I kind of hung up the phone and I did some research and I thought, you know what, if it helps her out, why not try it? Because she was put on this anti-seizure medication that just absolutely wiped her personality. Every single side effect that you could experience from this once anti-seizure medication she was on, it was ran habit. She lost 20% of her body weight. She was falling asleep all the time. She's nonverbal, and her little personality that she had, it's actually a big personality. She was void. It was like there's nobody there. And I was at a bit of my wit's end with how to help Devon with her situation. And I found myself on a hemp farm up in Vermont. A friend of mine had a hemp farm and he invited me up over Labor Day weekend in 2018. And it's in a place called Rockville in Vermont. And it was a beautiful Vermont day. And it was harvest time. And I walked into this hemp field. And it was like I had a moment with God. All of a sudden, I'm looking around at all these plants and it all clicked. And I said, this is the plant that's making the medicine that could potentially help Devon. And we started experimenting with it at this time. And I just felt this overwhelming draw to, you know what? This is what I want to do. This is where I'm going to pivot. I spoke to the farmer and I started just peppering him with questions. I'm like, what is it? How does one become a hemp farmer? And I got my pen and paper and I'm taking notes about strains and fertigation and how many plants you could put per acre and what kind of tractor I would need. And I started researching it really heavy in the fall of 2018. And it was an exciting time because the hemp business the Farm Bill had just passed. Vermont was an early adopter of the states. And I was like, you know what? This is more than about just making a profit and starting a new business. I can maybe create something here that will help my daughter naturally plant-based wellness and start a new company in the wellness space because I'd done very well in cleaning and in kind of kitchen gadgets. And I thought I could do something completely different, but maybe I can bring the experience from my marketing background and figure this out, do something completely different. And I was really excited about the prospect of it.
Yeah. In our pre-show, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
in our
no worries.
pre-show interview, you spent decades in a business where results were immediate and measurable. What was your first experience in the hemp business so you started to be a farmer and you had to market it?
I had
and
my
what was your first experience in that and what made you realize it wasn't going to work?
My initial plan, and it was pretty simple. I could write it down on a piece of paper, and I'm a big believer in keep it simple, stupid. That's just it requires more than a piece of paper to figure it out. It probably isn't worth doing unless you're a brain surgeon or a lawyer and you really need the time. I was like, what I'm going to do, I'm going to buy a piece of land. I'll buy a piece of land, get some farming equipment. I'll hire a consultant to help me figure out how to farm. We'll plant some hemp plants. We'll grow them over the summer. We'll pick them. We'll harvest them. We'll take 80% of them. We'll sell them at wholesale. We'll take the cream of the crop for ourselves at 20%, and we'll use that to make product. And my ace in the hole that I thought was going to work, because I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do a TV commercial on this in the traditional sense of the form, but I'd done a reality show called Pitchmen. There was a big hit in 2009. And the executive producer and creator of our show was a guy called Tom Beers, and he created Deadliest Catch and Ice Road Truckers. He was a heavyweight in cable TV. So I called Tom and I said, Tom, I got this idea. I want to make a TV show around this next business venture. What do you think? He loved it. He goes, this is just great. What could possibly go wrong? You're leaving the comfort of your cleaning world and you're going to become a hemp farmer. He said, this will be great television. So I went out and spoke to some friends and family and investors, and it was fairly simple to raise some money because people got it. They were like, he's doing this to help his daughter. This is a hot space. The TV show is bound to be compelling, right? Because I'm completely out of my depth trying this new endeavor. And I had an exciting team of people around me, and we'll document it and we'll use the TV show to push the brand. And I could connect the dots. And I thought when the TV show hits, it's the people going to see the TV show. They can fall in love with the journey. They're going to fall in love with my daughter. They're gonna be rooting for me because it's the hero's journey, and it's a little bit of a different arc to making a TV commercial, a direct response TV commercial. But this will be it'll be product placement within a TV show. I couldn't have got it more wrong, Paul. I was so confident when I went in. I knew that the farming part would be difficult, and there was a couple things that happened, and COVID happened in the middle of it, obviously in 2020. Didn't see that coming. I can't sit here to myself and say, oh, it was COVID, that's why nothing worked. Yeah, COVID affected everybody, and we actually, because we were considered essential, we were the farmers, we were able to work through it. We couldn't sell the TV show, and I was unable due to compliance to put my product on television in the traditional sense of I was used to making a 2-minute commercial, 60-second commercial, putting it on the air, put in $10,000 in media behind it, $20,000 in media behind it, go home, have a barbecue, have some beers with my friend. And on Monday morning, I could go in and call the media buyer and say, what have we sold? And invariably it was like two or three times ROAS. Great, let's roll it out and let's make some money. There was one TV station in the United States of America that would take a TV commercial for my product. The TV show, I couldn't sell it to anyone, and I did end up selling it to Vice TV. And there was a wholesale hemp market collapse at the end of 2019 that I didn't see coming. And I just thought there's such a demand and so much excitement for hemp and CBD that year. But it literally, when I say that I didn't sell 1 pound, and we grew 55,000 plants, Paul, I didn't sell one in 2019, not 1 pound of hemp. Nobody came to buy our product at wholesale. And
Wow.
I remember sitting in the top of my farm with some investors, my partner at the time, and I'm like, we're in trouble. We need to pivot. We need to figure this out. And that is where I had to go really deep in order to figure it out and get to where we are today.
What did that feel like? Just, you got all these chops. You've got everything lined up and everything's perfectly lined up. You're a pro. You've had smashing success. And then this happens, and then you're ace in the hole, which was the wholesale marketing drops out. How did that feel? And what were you thinking?
I was terrified. I had to put on a brave front because I'm a CEO of this company, and we had an investor group, and I'm like, we're going to figure this out. Going to figure it out. Luckily, the SDA kicked in. We did. At the time, we hadn't spent all our investment. And I think one of the mistakes I made in 2020, I decided to go back in the ground because the TV producers were like, we didn't capture the beginning of the season of 2019. So we need you guys to recreate it. So in all of it, and I was feeling like, I've always been very optimistic. I thought, you know what, we'll do it again. We're going to sit back down at the table, even though we've just hit 16 after 16 after 16 at the blackjack table. If I sit here long enough, I'm going to get a blackjack. So we went back in and we filmed and we finished the TV show, and we eventually sold it to Vice. And I was like, okay, maybe this will be when, the debut went out, and I thought, okay, the website's going to blow up. People are going to watch it. Hundreds of thousands of people will view it, and it didn't. The cash register didn't ring, and I was like, "This is not happening. This doesn't feel normal to me. I know what I'm doing. I know how to sell stuff. The story's great. I've got my daughter as my true north. I've got an organic certified, I've got USDA certified organic certification. I developed a way to extract my hemp using a press, where everyone else was using ethanol. I was using CO2. So I had a differentiator. I had all the things that I was using. I had my checklist when it comes to when I would evaluate products, and I was ticking those boxes. And then it dawned on me, okay, I've got to make some changes. We have to go we have to cut our expenses. We have to get lean, and we have to get down to selling one bottle at a time. We're not going to sell. This is not going to blow up the way I wanted it to. This company is not on a trajectory of OxiClean. This is going to be a longer road. It's going to be a more difficult road. We're going to have to find ways to market that are untraditional, and I'm going to have to go deep. I'm going to have to make phone calls to every single person I knew in the direct response business and tell them, look, I have this TV show. I have this great product. I have a farm. I'm the real deal here. I left my life of relative comfort and success in Florida selling OxiClean, and I'm embarked on this mission. And it was great. I got a lot of that. We can't help you. It's with compliance. We got our hands tied. But I had a few people, and they were like, Sully, we'll see what we can do. And it just pivoted. One of the things that we realized, I was driving to Austin one day I decided that we wanted to film an infomercial in Austin. I thought, you know what? I need to do an infomercial. And for some reason, and I'm like, hey, got to do an infomercial. We cut our staff, we put everything, and we basically moved our operations down to Florida because it was a little bit less expensive. And I thought, I got to do the one thing that I do know is let's do an infomercial. And I'm driving to Austin with my Airstream because I wanted to shoot it in the Pecan Grove Airstream Park, V Park in Austin, with this guy called JB Hager, who used to work with Lance Armstrong. And I like JB a lot. And I always liked the way that JB interviewed Lance. And I was like, JB, will you interview me and I want to tell the story of Montcush, and we'll put a call to action in it. And as we're driving, I'm driving somewhere in Texas off the freeway because I didn't like driving on the freeway. It's a Sunday morning, and every time we'd make a sale on the phone app, it would make a cha-ching sound. My phone would go cha-ching, and I used to love it, right? Oh my God, we sold a bottle. I just would go cha-ching, cha-ching. So it's a Sunday morning, and all of a sudden I just hear cha-ching, ching, and I called my then CEO, and I'm like, Daniel, wake up. I said, are you listening to what I'm listening to? He's like, yeah, something's going on. I'm like, why are the phones cha-chinging? And it turned out we actually had 2 episodes like that. One was a university study identified that CBDA could cure COVID, and we had our biggest day ever. I think we did almost $100,000 in sales in a day, completely random. And the second one, we found out that episode 10 of our TV show made people buy the product. There was something about just episode 10. So we ended out we turned episode 10 into an infomercial, and we successfully ran that for probably over a year. And that actually was the beginning of what saved us, because we had a piece of marketing material that was working, and I could apply all my metrics from my previous life. Okay, where can we air it? How much money can we spend on media? And are we getting a good ROAS? And we were able to get that. So we just had some small wins. I didn't worry about the wholesale market. We just went, let's make a really good product. It was our original CBD oil. It was USDA certified organic. And we just went all the way. I couldn't have gone outside of going on the road and standing on a street corner and selling it like I used to sell nuts at a state fair. That was almost as far back. I'm like, I just need to do what I do, and let's tell this story and sell this product. That episode 10.
Stop right there for a second.
Yeah.
Stop right there for a second. You mentioned ROAS. I know what ROAS. Can you explain it for the audience, because they may not know?
ROAS to me is everything. It's return on ad spend, return on advertising spend. And basically, some people call it a media efficiency ratio, an NER. And in a nutshell, if I spend $1,000 on media and I get $1,000 back, that would be a 1-to-1. If I spend $1,000 and I get 2,000 back, that's a 2-to-1. If I get a 2-to-1, I'm like, okay, it might be, because I can make with cost of goods, the cost of media, cost of fulfillment, cost of shipping. There's normally a 2-to-1. Most marketers are pretty happy. Anything over a 2-to-1, you're starting to dance around the kitchen. Like, we are in business. 2-to-1, 3-to-1, 4-to-1, 5-to-1. And if you get a 5-to-1, you're spending $1,000 on media and you're getting $5,000 back. It's pretty easy to figure out. They're very profitable.
How much can you spend from there?
On a 5-to-1,
I mean, that's what you're thinking.
You can spend $1 million a week.
Yeah.
You can spend $1 million a week. The sky's the limit. At a 5-to-1, it's time to ramp up production, and call some friends who will bankroll media. And there are companies that will bankroll media. And there are, in my life, I've had OxiClean was a 5-to-1 out of the gate. So the template was a 5-to-1 out of the gate. They're single digit CPO, cost per order, we call it. So when you get a single digit cost per order, that's when we can roll out. We were at Montcush, we were right at a 2-to-1. And we were like riding this razor thin line between making enough profit. But the nice thing is at a 2-to-1, even if you're not making them, because I was very live and die by the return on ad spend immediate. I want to know on Monday, but there's also a halo effect in what we call drag, where sometimes people will watch a commercial 3-4 times and they'll buy it later. So there's this sort of latent drag effect that happens with an infomercial airing time and time again. And I'll use an example like Tybo. You might watch Tybo on a Saturday morning and don't want to watch it. And after you've seen it 10 times, you're like, you know what, I'm going to buy that. Obviously, this is working. The Little Giant Ladder. I don't know if you remember the Little Giant Ladder. It was on television. And eventually, people just break down and buy it. So you may not buy it the first time. And we managed to find a couple marketing initiatives that worked. And that was the infomercial that we shot in Austin worked. Episode 10, we made a hybrid of that. That worked. We had our list from the university report about being a cure for COVID. So that was how we began to, and I did hit the road. We went to some marathons. We went to Tough Mudders. We got in front of the people. And one of the most interesting things that happened was I use the word we, I'd say I a lot, but it wasn't I, it was we. I get a lot of credit for Montcush because I'm the front man for it and founder, but I had an incredible team and have an incredible team now. We initially went in this we thought our mood state and our customer was going to be people suffering from anxiety, people suffering from wanting to feel calmer, that the same sort of benefits that people would get from THC, and that's what CBD was providing. But we did an outbound survey at the recommendation of someone we were working with, and we found out that our customers were actually buying it for pain. And that was very interesting as well. And this never happened to me. OxiClean gets the tough stains out. I know who I'm selling to. I know what OxiClean does, and I know who's buying it. It's moms, and they're getting the tough stains out. We went into Montcush thinking we're going to sell to people who are anxious, who need to be calm, who need to relax. And then we find out that by a long way, people are buying it for pain and inflammation. So we had to pivot our whole entire marketing message to pain and inflammation. We've even transitioned now into sleep. So this project has not only been challenging from the physical standpoint of learning how to farm, learning how to seed, learning how to fertigate, deal with pests and marauders on the farm and deer and whitefly and the deficiencies in the nutrients for the plant, the nitrogen deficiencies, things I never dealt with. There was the farming and the labor and the weather, but also from the marketing perspective, it was so challenging because not only we were dealing with compliance, we also were trying to navigate something that was so new. There was very little data to tell us who to market to and what they were buying our product for. So we've had to pivot. Our number one mood state right now, I would say, is probably sleep. We have a sleep formula that people absolutely love. My biggest challenge and the hardest thing for me as a founder of the company is we're shut out of 7 states for compliance. California, we're shut out. We got shut out of Tennessee last week. So we're only able to market in 43 states. And we are not, I still to this day, can't market on TikTok. I can't market on Meta. There are ways around it, but it is a extremely difficult business to market.
Yeah. And so how do you feel? How does that feel now that you've jumped over all these, you've broken through the barriers that were all in your way. You stepped around and you finally got a 2-to-1. How did that change your life and you as a person? And also, how did that affect Devon?
Devon, I was customer number one because I wanted to. I remember the first time we made our oil, we use a press to rosin. We call it rosin as an active ingredient. It's very pure. We mix it with fractionated coconut oil and a little bit of mint flavoring, organic mint flavoring. And I remember putting it under my tongue and thinking, we did it. After all the acres and acres of plants and all this work and mud and literally tears and blood. And because we're on the farm. And I remember that little picture underneath my tongue. I was like, wow, we did it. And I got really emotional. And then I flew back to Florida and I gave it to Devon. And I have a video of her taking it. And it's just this moment when I did this for my daughter. I get emotional thinking about it. And she knew. She doesn't talk, Devon, but she came to the farm. She loved it. I got pictures of her on the farm, and she knew what Daddy was doing. She's like, Daddy must be, he's not here. He's whatever he's doing. And her mom would be like, hey, Daddy's up on the farm working, and he's doing this crazy project to help you. Devon is no longer on Keppra medication. We managed to wean her off it. Having her as a true north really kept me going. Selling this now, this morning actually was great. I have a guy that comes and helps me with the house. He helps me. I travel a lot, and he'll bring my trash cans in. He's called Ray, and him is water my plants if I'm out of town. And he's an ex-paratrooper, and he's Agent Orange told me all the stories. He blew me up yesterday, and he's like, Sully, I need my here's a code. And I said, I'll bring some over. I wish I'd recorded the conversation. I walked out this morning, and he's like, he's worked, and I gave him a 60 count of our gummies. And he basically said, he's an older guy. And he just said, my ankles hurt, my back hurts. He's been through the wars. And he said, these gummies, and they saved me. When I gave them to him, I hope no one from OxiClean's listening. When people come up to me and say, I love OxiClean, it gets this, I love it, right? It makes me feel great because I'm like, yeah, product works. And you get a fan, and it feels great to get that adulation and that fan love about your product. But when someone like Ray comes up and says to me how much it's changed his life, it makes it all worthwhile. Like every sale we make at Mont Kush it's our customers, we don't have the customer base, the size of customer base that I would like. We're going to get there. It's a battle. This one is a battle for me. But the customers we do have, it's amazing to hear their stories. When we got shut out of California, there people send us before with shipping it out. And I realized now I'm in the wellness business. I'm helping people with veterans and parents with kids with autism and people with debilitating anxiety and people with pain who've been on pharmaceutical remedies or whatever and had very bad experiences, and all of a sudden they're getting relief from something that we grew up on a farm in Vermont, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was a rookie. This was definitely, we'll figure it out along the way. And I remember some people thinking, what do you know about farming? And I figured this out. And I think that's one of my favorite things about the entrepreneurial journey. And I think the most difficult is, I think sometimes a lot of entrepreneurs don't get started because they'll sit at a paper and they'll listen to the people that say they can't do it. And they'll write down all the reasons it won't work. And there's a lot, right? Like fear of failure. If I'm going to run out of money, I don't know what to do. What are my friends and family going to think? What is my wife going to think? I may have to remortgage my house. I don't know if I can work for myself. There's all these doubts. And in the other column, it's like, and a lot of it is just, you got to figure it out. You got to put a team together, figure it out. There's going to be obstacles along the way. And this had all of that. And it still does. It still has. But you asked me how I felt. It feels incredible to really start something. I could have white labeled this. I could have gone to China or gone to a manufacturer and I could have just put my name on it and I could have white labeled it and it would have cost me $20,000. Instead, I decided to go all in. Probably need to go seek some therapy about this all-inness, but I went all in, and I'm very proud of what we've done. There's a lot of work to be done on revenue. Our product lineup, I'm very proud of our product lineup. I feel like if we went to a wine tasting competition, if there was such a thing, we would win. I love our process. I love our story. I love our team. Love the product. The one thing that I'm continuing to work on now is actually the thing that I'm best at, is the thing that has given me the biggest challenge, is just getting eyeballs, getting revenue, and finding out that platform where I can tell this story about this product that we created. And it frustrates me a little bit because it's taken me longer than normally if you came to me, Paul, with a widget and I loved it, and I'm like, Paul, this is the greatest broom I've ever seen. I could probably turn it around in 60 days and you'd be on the air. And I will call you on the 75th day and say, Paul, we got a winner. I've done it. This one is 7 years in, and I'm still trying to get to that 3-to-1 ROAS, but we are going to get there.
One of the things that we talked about early on in our previous call was you had some investors and they were interested, and you had a great team to start with, and they wanted to pump more money into you. They wanted to invest more money, and you said no. Why did you do that? And
This
how did
this
that
is a
play out?
this is a difficult story. We hit a point where I realized in late 21 that we, in my view, as a just in business ethics, we couldn't take on any more investors. I couldn't, in good faith, in the condition the company was in with no revenue and the forecast that I was looking at. I was looking down the road and we didn't have any revenue, and we'd taken on a substantial amount of investors. I felt it was a disservice to dilute the company anymore with more investment money, and also to bring investors on with something that I felt was on shaky ground. I was like, we need to create some revenue. I cannot just take more investors on and take more money. And it caused a big fracture in the management of the company because a lot of people were on heavy salaries and we were top heavy. And I felt, as the CEO and founder at the time, that the only way to survive was to take the money we had, cut the salaries at the top, which, as you can imagine, in a startup that goes down like a lead balloon. Everyone's got to go down to the essential personnel only. Then the only thing that mattered to me was revenue. And I sat down after I made the cuts, and it was absolutely brutal. And it really, that was the most painful thing I've ever done in business, was to sit there and go, there's going to be a clash in management. Do I have the numbers? If I go down this road, do I have the numbers to take this? And then when I do take the helm in this direction, I have to create revenue. And I sat down with one of the guys who's now the CEO. And I sat in the room and I said, "You're the chief revenue officer, the CRO, according to Crow." They said, "Your only job is to create revenue." I said, "We cannot spend any more money. All the money we cannot spend any more money. We have enough inventory. We have enough inventory to make millions and millions of bottles. We have farmed. We have proved it. We have done a TV show. I do not see a meaningful, no one's coming to buy at wholesale. We can't take any more money on." And I probably could have taken more money on. I'm a good salesman. I could have walked in the room and said, "Yeah, give me $1 million. This is going to the moon." And I just felt that we'd hit a point where we had to sell. And it wasn't a popular decision because I had to cut some of the investors' work for the company at the time, and it was very difficult. But I do believe I did the right thing for the company and the investors, and we're still in business. And the Crow, we started selling within. I remember sitting in Vermont, and I'm like, "We just got to double the high score. Just double the high score. Okay, we do 2 bottles, we got to do 4 bottles. We do 4 bottles, we got to do 8 bottles. 8 bottles, 16, 32, 64. That's what we got to do. Just double the high score." And
what changed operationally to have that happen?
We leaned out. We absolutely leaned out, and we consolidated our inventory. We had an order from a retailer in California called Airone, a very high-end retailer in California, and we ordered a substantial amount of inventory. So we had a lot of inventory, and we had a website that wasn't as transactional as I wanted. And I was just like, that's not going to take a lot of people. We can do this with 3 or 4 or 5 people. And we had a staff at the time, probably 30 people up at the farm, because we had farming operations. We had greenhouses, and we just had to, and I realized that we had to cut the farming operations because I did not realize, and this is probably to my detriment, farming is not cheap. Farming is an expensive endeavor. It's people, it's machinery. You're spending money, especially in a big ag, maybe because the economies of scale. But farming on a small scale, especially hemp, where there wasn't any real protocols or systems in place, we were figuring it out. Our burn rate on the farm was massive. So I was like, farming operations have to completely cease. And the company was built around the farm at the time. So we just had to slash that. And it was brutal because I like these people. I like them. I have relationships with them. I would say the word, I love some of them. The incredible people. We did this and all of a sudden, from a business standpoint, I had to say, we need to, and people were like, we can't stop the farm. I said, we farmed past tenants. We've done it twice. We've harvested twice, and we have enough inventory. Now we have to sell. And the selling part of this business is very different than the farming part of the business. So we were able to ice the farming operations for 1 whole year, and we brought our costs down, and we shifted everything to marketing and manufacturing and fulfillment. And we manufactured everything in the United States. We stayed manufacturing ourselves, and we teamed up with some people in Tennessee and Chattanooga and Vermont and Florida. We got some manufacturing partners, and we transitioned from farming into manufacturing and marketing. And we did go back up to the farm, but we went up with a much leaner team. But that was easier because we knew what to do. It was the second or third time at it. So I don't want to say experienced, but we had the equipment. We knew what worked and what didn't work. I will tell you, I had a pretty heavy team with me for year one and year two. Actually, not a very heavy team. Year three, we were able to, with a very small group of people, because we knew what to do, we were able to successfully farm. And it wasn't on the same scale, but I remember walking through the farm in 22, and I had a quiet smile. I'm like, I got this. I'm a farmer. I'm a legitimate farmer now. I knew how to do it, and I could do it tomorrow. I'm heading up to the farm on Sunday.
So what matters now that didn't matter before?
So
Now that you've been through this journey.
from an entrepreneurial perspective, well, I think now, in this environment, this media environment and this marketing environment, it's more important than ever to have a product that is 5 stars. The feedback, the customer feedback to review, the reviews matter, the value matters, the quality of the product matters now more than ever. The way it gets shipped, I'll tell you right now, in the 90s, if you bought from us, you dial an 800 number, it would go to a third-party call center. It would take 4 to 6 weeks to get the delivery. You remember this, 4 to 6 weeks to get the delivery. You hit the credit card. Now we have to get that order out same day with a signed card if we can. We have a customer service person. It isn't someone in China answering the phone. It isn't a call center in Omaha. That used to be the case. West Telemarketing was one of our office. We pick up the phone. It's human touch, human interaction. We're incorporating AI into our ecosystem. But I still think what matters, especially for our customers, is that human touch. The website's got to be seamless, zero friction, or very little friction. If there's an issue with customer service, pick up the phone, call the customer back. I'll call the customer. I'll speak to the customer if I want to. The quality of the product. And I think when you ask me that, really, and as I get down to this, it's still value. People are craving value. The offer's got to be right.
Yeah, and I think you're right. You're right with the human touch. We want connection. We want to know, when we love a brand, we want to know the people behind it. And I think that's great that you answer the phone. And yeah, sometimes you need AI or something like that to help facilitate the human touch 24/7. You got people who are buying stuff online at night. But the other part of the question I wanted to ask you was, how did this change you as a leader? How did this affect you personally? What mattered more now than before?
It humbled me and it broke me. There was a couple times when I was, especially with the scale and the remoteness sometimes of being up in Vermont and living in an Airstream with no Wi-Fi, and it'd be raining, and I'm looking out at the fields and I'm like, what did I get myself into? This was a mission that was, but it far exceeded, and it still does. I think I blocked out some of the challenges like COVID and the restructuring of the company. And then we had a flood we had a 100-year flood in the Winooski River that flooded our entire warehouse. And that took me to my knees, that one. I remember getting up to Vermont. We'd had an amazing June in Vermont about 4 years ago. We'd all this hemp that we'd grown for 2 years. We had binned it all. It was all inventoried. And I remember, Donnie, we have 24 million of hemp at retail. It looked like our warehouse looked like something out of Breaking Bad. If you ever seen Breaking Bad, it was just like, I felt like we had just stacks and stacks of hemp flower. And I knew where it was going to go. Fast forward 2 weeks, I was in Seattle. There was a flood in Vermont. The Vermont floods, it flooded Montpelier, was 2 feet underwater. Our whole entire warehouse was wiped out. And we didn't have any insurance because they wouldn't insure it. I remember that one. I just looked at my partner, Daniel, at the time, and I was like, how do we recover from this? How do we recover? And we did. It has made me more grateful it's really made me appreciate how difficult the entrepreneurial journey is. I read Elon's book. I know Elon can be very polarizing, but I read his book that Walter Isaacson wrote, and there's some chapters in that book that I got inspiration from, because as I'm sitting here on my entrepreneurial journey, thinking I'm alone in there. So I think a lot of entrepreneurs can relate to this, with whether it's finance, whether it's a lawsuit, which we have to deal with as well, whether it's investors, whether it's a product recall. These are things that can break a company, they can break a leader, and it's that ability to stay in the saddle when things are really tough. And this project has taught me that stay in the saddle, just stay in the saddle no matter what. And obviously, I think there are times in business when you have to look at the numbers, and if the metrics don't work, you got to be like, you know what, we need to call it. We have to move on. But this has taught me that it is definitely a journey. And I don't think it's a little frustrating now, because I've read about some of these brands and I can't name them off the top of my head with AI. And there's obviously very smart people in the room, and they go from 0 to $1 billion valuation in 11 months. But they're unicorns, right? Nearly every single story, whether it's Hershey's chocolate or Coca-Cola or Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, all of those entrepreneurs went through hellacious setbacks. Heinz, and I feel like I'm in the fight with my team and with that. And to appreciate that, because sometimes it can get you down. You know, we need more sales. We need this. And it's just like, this is the entrepreneurial journey. And the success comes quickly to some brands and some stories, and slower to others. But if you keep at it, we'll get there. And it taught me patience, humility, optimism, and that's stay in the saddleness, if that's a word.
It is now, and you are the epitome of optimism as I've come to know you. What has to evolve Monkush to scale sustainably from looking forward in the future?
We need to have a break in on marketing platforms. What basically happened is, in 2018, the Farm Bill came out. I worked under the impression, I think a lot of people did, that hemp's going to be legal. We're going to be able to sell it everywhere. It's almost like selling alcohol, tobacco, firearms. We've been put into that section, and we're out of 7 states. So at some point, I thought retail would open up. I thought television would open up. I definitely didn't think Facebook would close us down, or Meta. At some point, one of those platforms, whether it's Meta, TikTok, cable television, one of those platforms is going to open for us, and the door will open, it will stay open, and we'll be able to walk through it, and we'll be able to tell the story. Right now, I feel like I'm taking a knife to a gunfight, because we just don't have that large platform where we can tell the story. So we're still a brand that we don't have the platform. And even doing a podcast with you, we're able to tell the story to some people, and it helps to tell the story. With OxiClean, I can sell laundry detergent anywhere. No one is telling me there's a compliance issue with OxiClean. We have a lot of compliance. So at some point, I'm just hoping that administration, Republican, Democrat, whatever it is, opens up for us, and we're able to yell from the rooftops. That is the fundamental change that's going to have to happen. Otherwise, in a deeper water than I would like to be when it comes from getting our message out there.
Yeah, it's been a really great conversation. Thanks for bearing your soul, so to speak. I know that wasn't that comfortable for you, but I do appreciate that. How can people find out more about you and Mount Kush and Devon?
I have an Instagram handle, Sully on TV. That's SULLY on TV. And I just a lot of OxiClean on there. I have a difficult time posting Mount Kush because obviously of compliance. Yeah. Kush.com is our website. If you go on YouTube, we have a lot of assets. The TV shows on YouTube, this whole story is on there. She's amazing. She was out surfing with me 2 days ago. She takes Mount Kush, calls it her medicine. So montkush.com. We're on Instagram and TikTok as well. But YouTube is, we've got a lot on YouTube, and there's a lot of fun stuff on there, because in this 6-7 year journey, we've had some laughs. We really have. Being up on the farm and road trips across the country with an Airstream, and making these products, and going to Tough Mudders, and hanging out with Lance Armstrong on his podcast. We've had some really good times. Our customers are great, and we continue to enjoy the brand. But yeah, montkush.com, and I've got an offer as well for your listeners as well, viewers.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So if you would like to try any of our Monkush products, whether it's a True Sleep formula or a CBDA gummies, or a true vibe, go to montkush.com/growth. That's montkush.com/growth. montkush.com/growth for a exclusive offer. I think it's a BOGO we put together. And please try any of our products, and whether it's pain, sleep, anxiety, rest, stress, we've got it all.
Gotcha. That's montkush.com, montkush.com/growth. Go check it out. I'm going to check it out. I'm interested in your sleep product. One thing that stood out to me in this conversation is that growth isn't always about doing more. Sometimes it's about stripping everything back to what actually works and rebuilding from there. And that's exactly what you did. Thank you so much, my friend. I appreciate you being on the show and telling your story. So as we sign off until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, faith and action go hand in hand. So keep the pedal to the metal. Until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, I'm Paul Guyan and Sully Sullivan. Thank you, brother. Thanks for coming out.
Thanks for having me, Paul. I appreciate it. All right. God bless and happy days.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyan, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.